Hello and welcome to Unacademy. I welcome you all to the Hindu analysis today at 5 p.m. Now, before we begin, a very important announcement. You may be aware of it, but today was the projected date of the UPSC notification for 2026 examination, both prelims, mains, and interview coming through. However, UPSC has postponed it due to administrative reasons. I hope that you're aware of this. If you aren't, this should not be news to you right now, but just to be on the safe side, the notification was proposed to come today on 14th of January. However, now it has been, there is no date, indefinitely postponed, and it will be notified in due course. Now, the meaning of this can be two things. First, it's just a standard administrative delay, but UPSC has generally not done this for a very, very long time, which is when it has given a calendar, specifically as what we call as academic calendar, it generally does not play with it. Second thing is, this can also be an indication of some major change coming through or some major procedural change coming through. UPSC has already notified that there will be face authentication at the centers at this point of time. Though they have run a pilot program on that, maybe the integration of that needs more time. Whatever it may be, the notification which should have been here today is now going to come in due course. So please, the students who are preparing, don't think that the date of the examination will go forward. For any student who is preparing for 2026, don't think that the date of the examination will go forward. They will give a smaller window of filling up the form. Please remember this point very clearly. Last time they had introduced a lot of changes with regards to OTR, which was close to a mains level OTR in that regard. We don't know why this delay is there. So I hope that you're going to use this opportunity, the extra time before, because once the notification comes, then you can say the pressure is on and the countdown is on. The countdown is still on, but we don't know when the notification will come. This you must have heard from multiple sources. You may have thought it is fake news. It isn't. It is a UPSC notification here. So, on this note, before we begin, remember, if you are trying to prepare for UPSC, these distractions should not play any role in your mind. So, today we are going to cover 7 topics out of the Hindu newspaper, and quite interesting ones, where we'll talk about AI and the environmental impact of AI. Thereafter, we'll talk about how there's a certain, you can say, scheme which is coming through for importing telecom, where source codes have to be shared with the government of India and its third party agencies. Then we'll talk about a very interesting development in urbanization in India. Data suggesting to how there are smaller towns which are becoming more and more important than actually the hubs such as Hyderabad, Bangalore, or Bengaluru, or Delhi, or Mumbai. Then we'll talk about Nipah cases in West Bengal. Both the, you can say, patients are extremely critical, but we'll talk about the static here, which is what is Nipah. Then at the same point of time, we will talk about how the 10-minute delivery concept has now been in a way put on hold by the companies on the on the appeal of the labor ministry. And we, and the whole story of the tantrums thrown by Trump with regards to what is happening in Iran, India is talking about how a 25% tariff on any country which trades with Iran is not going to really impact India. Generally, we'll look at the quantum and the nature of that. So, good evening to all of you. I hope you are going to now use this time to make your preparation better. And if you have been looking for a short term program where you don't need the elaborate 1 year, you can use this 3 plus 2, what we call as program, where at 12,999 for just 5 months, with this period of 4 months, you can use all the lectures, every resource which is available on the Unacademy platform for your preparation. But if you are a long term learner looking for 27 and 28, you also have 12 plus 3, 18 plus 6, and 24 plus 6 at very affordable prices. Do remember to use the code IS English. If you don't, you will not get the least price possible, which is available on the website. Right. So, perfect, Manisha. Perfect. So let's start our analysis for today. Please do understand that the notification has been delayed, and there is a reason for that. We don't know that right now. Only the notification is the answer to this question. But remember, don't stop preparing, or the in most probability the examination date will not go forward. So you can say the window of opportunity, the preparation time does not change per se. Now, it's an interesting article about AI and environmental impact. So, as always, I'll give you the overall perspective. At the same point of time, we will go into the nitty-gritties thereafter, and then we will also try to understand how does it impact you as a student for prelims and mains, because not every article is worded for the examination. We have to take out the right set of what we call as data and concepts from the article. We will also do some mains questions, and I have some prelims questions for you also. So let's try to use that. Now, when we talk about, for example, AI, artificial intelligence, a buzzword today. Everything has AI. Your phone has AI. Most probably any device which you use today has AI. Now, AI is seen as the solution for most of the problems, from automation to excessive human labor with regards to repetitive tasks. The idea is that AI is the solution. However, this article talks about a very interesting thing. Whilst AI is used to tackle climate change, why is nobody asking what is the impact of AI on climate change, or what is the environmental cost of AI? Meaning, at the end of the day, artificial intelligence runs on a server, and therefore it uses energy. Now, when it uses energy, how much energy is it consuming? And if that is in excess to any other search engine or any other technology we've used, maybe it is not the solution, it is a problem. And this is based on a certain OECD working paper which has talked about how AI algorithms are having a certain environmental cost. That is the context of this article. And it is reported that the global ICT industry, which is the information and communication technologies industry, this industry, the total greenhouse emission ranges from 1.8% to 2.8% and as high as 3.9%. It includes all other hardwares, but also includes the hardware which are running AI. A very simple, straightforward question would be, how does AI consume electricity or energy? For this, we have to look at a very standard, for example, data center. If you are interacting with, chatting with ChatGPT or Grok or any resource, it is based on a server. Now, the first way in which it is consuming energy, it is via the lines through which electricity is pulled. Meaning, a thermal power plant, if the energy is not green, it is based out of a thermal power plant. Thermal power plant will use water resources also. It will use certain form of cooling also. It will also generate electricity at certain greenhouse gas emissions. This is consumed by the servers in which the ChatGPT model is running. At the same point of time, because this level of computing generates a lot of heat, there would be a need for water based, oil based, whatever it may be, some form of cooling system. And this is where you must have heard that Google, even Microsoft is putting its servers deep under sea, or what are called deep ocean cooling systems, wherein they're using the you can say coldness of the ocean to cool down their servers. But not every server is using these type of technologies. It is housed in a room like this where ACs are running. If AC is running, it is consuming even more electricity, and at the same point of time, that cooling system also has an environmental cost. So the cooling, the usage, and the general usage of electricity all together add up to the environmental cost. Now, based on this, the article points out four major issues. This is where you should now be very, very attentive, because this will help you in writing a good answer for a question: what is the AI environmental cost? The four issues it points out. The four issues it points out is, first, with regards to, these are the issues. First, with regards to water usage. So, based on an UNEP report, AI servers use 4.2 to 6.6 billion cubic meters of water will use by 2027, and this could lead to water scarcity because of the cooling system, meaning it will use close to 7 billion cubic centimeters of water and cubic meters of water rather to cool down these servers. Water is already a strained resource, and we would have to divert these resources into AI systems. At the same point of time, another UN report points out for any large language model, is based, for example, Chat GPT, the carbon emission of training, because AI is based on input. How you train the AI will decide how the output comes. So that training cost leads to close to 3 lakh kgs of carbon emissions, and therefore it's a very big carbon footprint. At the same point of time, when we talk about carbon emissions of training basic AI models also, it is leading to 6 lakh 26,000 pounds of CO2, which is again a lifetime emission of 5 cars. Imagine how many GPTs we have today. And last but not the least is Chat GPT uses 10 times more energy than Google search for giving you more or less the same type of answer if you're asking very simple questions. So the high energy demand, is it justified or not? So we can use these findings. We don't need to use the data per se in the examination. And I have a prelims question for you on this based also. The idea is very simple. The idea is that if we had a certain type of internet which was based on Google searches and Yahoo searches, we are now using 10 times more energy to create AI models, which are then training on a system which is having a CO2 based emission. And further, it is also developing a model which consumes energy. So the cooling, training, and the usage all have significant impact on the environment. And nobody is actually talking about. No one. So this issue has been pointed out by the OECD. It has been pointed out by the UNEP. It is now becoming more and more evident that AI may not be the solution, but be also part of the problem. So we have now identified one very interesting thing. So I'll create a mind map for you so that you understand how to make mind maps also, but also how to systematize this information for both prelims and mains. We are talking about artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence, it is believed that the ICT industry generally is using close to 3% of, or is in a way emitting 3% of total greenhouse gas emissions, the whole industry itself. Out of that, AI, water cooling, with regards to training, with regards to usage, and with regards to historical usage. Historical usage would mean that Google search versus chat GPT. What is the you can say difference? Here it is 10x more. Usage is close to 6 lakh CO2 kgs of CO2. Training is 3 lakh, and water usage is going to lead to 7 billion cubic meters, 7 billion cubic meters of water needed by 2027, which is next year. Now, what this means is, and this is how you are going to also mark this, what this means is that the total environmental cost is significant. Now, the question is, how do we mitigate? How do we mitigate? I hope till this point, everybody is on the same page with me. That we have first established what is the cost and what is the quantum of the cost. Manisha, but the the comparison is not between using paper and AI. It is about using the internet with its computing capacity and with AI models which are coming up every day. And that in turn leads to everybody wanting more AI and AI. So, wherein you would have automation leading to unemployment further. The cost of employment, if you take into consideration all of that, if a Tata factory runs on for example AI and is run on a what we call as basic shop floor, there's a very significant change in the carbon emissions. That is the whole point. So the point is that there is you are comparing apples with oranges. That is where we have to understand how this is a better comparison on how we used to use the internet and its resources and how we are using it today. So that is where you have to understand that historical usage is significantly higher. So can I move ahead? I want everybody's yes here. Yes, sir. Perfectly fine. All on the same page. No issues. Yes, sir. Okay. Now, if you are preparing for 2026, you should have to follow till March, at least till March. You follow Conquer Prelims, that is more than enough. Now, with regards to way forward, the first, the first most important way to take this into consideration, take this into is that is that we have to acknowledge it first. We have to acknowledge it first. Yeah, this was pounds, not kg. Which is we have to acknowledge that there is a environmental cost of AI. If we acknowledge it, the article says that we have to create an EIA, which is Environmental Impact Assessment Regime, which can take into account AI's development, though EIA is done for mostly what we call as big hydel power projects, solar projects, or for example, a certain cutting down a forest for creating a certain industry. EI, as of right now, environmental impact assessment does not take into account what is today called as AI models or specifically the cost of internet servers. So therefore, what the article says is the government has to create the government has to create an assessment model with all the stakeholders where we can take the right parameters. Data collection is important, meaning what should we collect, at what time should we collect, at what cost it is being produced. Meaning, as of right now, we have no policy framework, no policy even take all of this into account. So the environmental cost of AI has to be taken into consideration. We first need to create the parameters, then we also have to create the data, and then we have to compare. In this article, we are not passing a judgment that AI is useless or the incremental output ratio, whatever it may be, Jaideep. We are not directly saying that AI is worse than Google or AI is not better than Google. But in what we call this is an ethical dilemma which we have. And the ethical dilemma is what does the environmental cost of AI justify its overall usage vis-a-vis as a civilization? It's not that we were not surviving as a civilization without AI. We were able to send a man to the moon, and we were able to create a satellite which was on Mars. The question is, we didn't use AI there. The new generation believes that AI is necessary. But talk to a person from the 90s or 2000s, we were doing what we were doing and maybe doing better without AI or with the labor power which we had. Meaning the point is historically, this is how the industrial revolution was also seen. Industrial revolution was also a very good thing for the economy. But the social and the economic sometimes also has to be balanced with the environmental. This is called environmental ethics. This is the problem. This is pure environmental ethics, which is the cost of development and growth actually worthwhile vis-a-vis the environmental cost? There will be no earth in the end. What will we do with the AI? So AI as of right now is seen as a solution. The article points out that AI should also be seen as a problem if is not done in the right way. Meaning the simplest solution for this is that AI systems should and AI companies should be using green energy to run these servers, which is technically not true as of right. So when we talk about mitigation, one of the easiest way to mitigate this is what? We use green sources, meaning it should be mandated through a policy framework that AI servers or big servers have to be run on solar power plants or some form of clean energy. That will incentivize clean energy also. And if, for example, Google, ABC Corp, or Meta, or for example, Microsoft, or even Apple are mandated something like this, imagine the impetus which will go through to green energy. It's a matter of environmental ethics. It's a matter of how we mitigate something like this. I hope you understand the basic point, because you can get a question like this in the examination, which can be directly picked up from the article. The current discussions on AI and climate change revolve on how AI can help protect the environment, but without going into the demerits of developing large AI algorithms. Comment. Now, you can, if it's a comment question, you just can't deny this concept, right? You can't deny this concept. You have to, at the same point of time, balance your answer and say that, okay, we have to balance the overall approach by saying that AI is good for the civilization, but it has an environmental cost. So please do understand this. No, you don't need to. You don't need to. Om, you don't need to. It is written in a Lakshmikant fashion. You don't have. Just have to follow it religiously, study it. So that is also true, Manisha. That is also true. AI is making our capacity to think also in a way. You can say it is impacting that. It is not, maybe not detrimental, but obviously, previously, if there were no AI solutions, we used to figure it out. The problem solving nature of our understanding is maybe going through. Now, can we move to the next topic? But before that, a question for you. Everybody is going to write the answer in the chat section. I'm looking at the chat section. Read the question, I'll read it out for you, and you have to give me the answer to this question. Consider the following statements. The global information and communication technology industry is estimated to be responsible for between 1.8 to 3.9% of global greenhouse gas emissions. In the examination, this may be omitted and the word significant may be written. And a single ChatGPT query is estimated to consume approximately 10 times less energy than a standard Google search. What is the answer to this question? If you have not gone through this article, if you use basic logic, it is there is one extreme statement here and you can automatically get the answer. Beautiful, very good. So the answer is one only, because 10 times more energy. More energy. But if you are oblivious of this type of a discussion, this may seem true to people also. More than that, you don't even need to know the data. It just makes no sense whatsoever. So the answer is only one. Very good. So I have shown you how a mains question can be made. I've also shown you how a prelims question can be. They can remove this and write significant, and this will still be a correct state, right? So we can expect tech to be more greener. That is the whole point. Easier said than done, right? Okay, now the second article is based on a certain controversy, a controversy which has been going through for the past, you can say, 1 week or so, and that is based on one PIB article which was talking about how certain agencies within the government of India are asking for the source code of mobile phones or any telecom, you can say, import into India. Meaning, if you are importing any telecommunications device, phone, or be it any form of communication device, you have to give access to a third party agency within the government of India, the access to the source code, and the third party agency then can review the source code, and at the same point of time, any major software update should be gone should be gone through the government of India procedure, meaning it has to go through a certain process. So very simply, when we talk about the government of India, when we talk about the concept of third party agencies getting access to source code, the first question which comes to mind is, what is a source code? The source code. This is a basic question. It's a very basic question. What is a source code? Now, be it Android, be it iOS, Mac OS, be it any form of operating system which you use, Linux, whatever you use, every software has some core files, core files, core code, core code. This code is extremely important to run the software on the hardware, meaning without the source code, the hardware will not run the software itself. So it is a digital asset. It is a core repository of what we call as programs. It is a core repository of the whole digital footprint of that software. This code mostly is kept open. Android is one of the most open source code based what we call as OS or operating systems. On the other hand, the iOS is not very open that way. It is very difficult to bring in customizations in an iOS phone. Whilst in Android, you can play with the source. You can play with not everything, but major customizations can happen within the source code also. Now, for simple commercial reasons, the companies don't give access to everybody with regards to the source code is not available to everyone. Major things may be still core files are not there. But what is even more dangerous here is if source code is given to a third party or to anybody available in the market, cyber vulnerabilities come through. Meaning, if I give you the map of the house which you have to actually do theft in, well, you have to do a robbery in a certain bank, and I give you the whole concept on what floor, what is there, what is the code, and what is the pin of every gate, then it will become very easy for you to rob that bank. To understand this point, data breaches or cyber attacks, they can increase exponentially. They can increase exponentially if the source code is available to someone. Imagine UPSC telling you out of which units or which topics it is going to ask you the question. Not even telling you the question per se. You just get to know that this paper will be based on the following: that one question fundamental right, one question fundamental duty, one question on Moria, one question on this. That is why, yes, Android is more vulnerable than iOS because of the same reason. To hack an iOS phone is difficult. To hack it nowadays with Pegasus and all, everything is the same. But the point is that imagine UPSC giving you a cheat sheet on which they tell you out 100 questions, what are the topics. Question they will not tell you. That is like the source code in that regard. The source code is a very important set of code and software which is available within a certain hardware. So, very simply, source code should not be provided to anyone. Now, the point is, why am I talking about this? What is the whole point of this discussion? The point of this discussion is that in 2023, the National Center for Communication Security, NCSS, said that if you are importing any form of telecommunication equipment into India under the mandatory testing and certification of telecommunication equipment, MTCTE, it was said that source code has to be provided. This statement was given that the source code should be required for the smartphone maker to the third party testing agency for review, and any major update will only go through if we approve it, and you should tell us what is the major update. This is where you have to understand now, since 2024, the DOT and the ministry has taken a decision not to ask or not to add this provision into the importing laws or importing memorandum. However, they are open minded and will do anything for the interest of the country and the consumer. That is why all this problem is there. This is where the article, there is a certain, you can say, think tank and NGO which has pointed out that what the government of India is seeking is too dangerous. It exposes the entire code base to the third party. If that is, and if, how easy would it be or how difficult it would be to take that source code from the third party? A government agency, most probably. And thereafter, it will then show all the vulnerabilities, all the backdoor entries, all the what we call as cyber security threats which are inbuilt into the system, and it will become very easy to then expose the vulnerabilities and attack that iOS, that system or that OS in that regard. So it's a very simple, straightforward concept. This was a text and context article. This is not something which still is on the table, but the PIB article says that open minded approach. If needed, we can ask for it. This will only lead to one thing. Either smartphone agencies are going to say, or the companies are going to say, we will not give you the source code, which will in turn lead to the import ban in that. So you please have to understand one thing very clearly. What is the whole point of this discussion? You have to understand what is source code. This is an important aspect of now science and technology. They can ask you, consider the following: computer, TV, and I can give you that question. Consider, you give me the answer to this question. Consider the following. Let's practice it only. TV, smartphone, smartwatch, and EV scooter, or rather, I'll say EV car. Why do I need to even write EV car? Car. Which of the following have source codes? A is 1 only, B is 1, 2, 3 only, C is 2, 3, and 4 only, and D is all. What is the answer to this question? Simple. Tell me. Very good. The answer to this question is D. All of the above. A smart TV or a TV would obviously have some software behind it. No TV today is not a smart TV. Smartphones have a source code. Smart watches also have a source code. And with the cars becoming more and more high tech, which have so many different features, they also have a source code. Every car manufacturer has a certain interface, has a certain UI. Every smartphone has it, every smartwatch has it, every TV today has it. So the answer becomes, I very categorically did not write smart TV. I just wanted to see if you can use the generic terminology or not. So I hope that you understand what is the point of this discussion. What is the point of discussion? It will reach you, Manisha. There's a certain timeline for that that will be shared by the team, but it will reach you at your residence. Yes. Yes, infotainment systems have it. Is this topic clear to everyone? What is a source code? How is it used? What is the point of not giving it to people? And why would a company not reveal it to everyone? Are we clear about this concept? Anybody has any issue in understanding this? Yes, that is true, Aman. Anytime you go for a service, they will plug the UI or the car into to run diagnostics also. True, very true. Okay, all clear. So we've understood two things till this point. One, AI has an environmental cost. Second, we've understood what is a source code, right? source code, and how the government of India asking for that source code while importing some form of telecommunication device is actually going to make our lives even more dangerous and more vulnerable. Okay. Now, this article is quite interesting. See, when we talk about what we call as urbanization per se, or capitalistic development, or development of cities in India, we always talk about major hubs, which are the metro cities, which is Hyderabad, Bengaluru. You have Calcutta, for example, Chennai. They will talk about Mumbai. They will talk about uh, Kolkata. They will talk about Delhi. These are Ahmedabad. Very, very important cities that way. And their urbanization is also talked about like that. That there is pure urbanization. The article says that we are caught up in a certain understanding that all development in India, urbanization and urban development is within these certain sectors. But what the article points out is a very interesting thing. It argues that if you look at the urbanization pattern today in India, if you look at the urbanization pattern today, yeah, out of 9,000 census and statutory towns, barely 500 qualify as large cities. And most of the new hubs which are emerging are actually small towns with population below 1 lakh. Now it is increasing, but used to be below 1 lakh. Small towns are now becoming a new product of India's capitalistic development and its crisis. Meaning, Bengaluru, Hyderabad have reached their capacity. There are multiple problems for people to now stay in Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, Bengaluru, for example, Hyderabad. The problem is that these cities cannot absorb more of the population. They were quite accommodative. They were absorbing surplus labor. They were accommodating the understanding generally. However, what has happened is now there is issue of affordability. I can stay in Bangalore, but I cannot buy anything there. Further, the infrastructure, for example, in a city like Bangalore, is already strained beyond exception, and the rising cost of living in these cities has in turn reversed the direction, or you can say changed the direction of the labor, which is or the capitalistic development which is happening in India today. So this is the problem statement. The problem statement is that these big cities cannot absorb, cannot absorb the amount of people who are seeking employment, and at the same point of time, the accommodative capacities of the cities are exhausted. That is where a new pattern is emerging. And the new pattern is very simple. For example, towns in Andhra Pradesh, in Chhattisgarh, in Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh rather, Hassan in Karnataka, in Assam, Una in Himachal Pradesh, they are emerging as new logistical hubs, agro processing hubs, warehouse towns, construction economies, service centers, and even BPOs, and now consuming a lot of the labor which is available. I'll give you a very simple example. Try to send a package from or try to order on Amazon something from Delhi while sitting in Chennai. And most probably, when you are going to check the tracking details of that article or of that commodity, it will go through either Hassan or either one of these small towns in this peninsular sector of India. You will for sure see this. The name of the towns in which the package is moving are not major cities. And this is where these new centers are absorbing the rural youth who are not getting space within the agricultural sector. They are also not that they're remaining rural, they are part of this urban process, but with haphazard urbanization. The reason why these big companies, for example, Flip, for example, Amazon, for example, these the companies, or for example, agro processing companies are going to these towns is cheap labor, no real regulation, very, very labor, and no real political scrutiny. If you do something very big in Bangalore or you do something very big in Delhi, you will be prosecuted. It will become a very big issue. We've all seen Raghav Chadda sitting behind a Blinkit driver about the 10 minutes thing. We'll talk about that also. That is also a new development. 10 minutes concept has gone through. But the idea is if you're in these small cities, local politicians are already in the nexus. Most probably the local politician is running that only. So therefore, there's no issue only. So the problem statement was, or that the larger concept or the larger statement being made by the article is very interesting, which is that India is now urbanizing in a different way. The main metros have, for it is cheaper, more easier, and better to move to a more smaller city next to that metro, and then in a way develop the infrastructure there, which in turn leads to urbanization. But that urbanization is problematic. And that is what this article is talking about. So, before we talk about that aspect, which is what is this nature of growth, let's try to summarize what we've done till this point. Very simply, we are talking about capitalistic development. I will be taking Conquer Prelims Marathon on 19th and 20th. Don't worry. Everything I will cover for prelims. So, capitalistic development, it is talking about how metropolitan cities have reached a saturating point, and when they reached a saturating point, there is a new pattern of development. The new pattern of development, this is because of land prices, this is because of the infrastructure, and it is also because of the cost of living. Look at the rent prices in Delhi or Bangalore. New pattern of development, which is basically smaller towns are becoming capitalistic hubs, and these hubs are based on the idea of cheap labor, the idea that there are, you can say, no real regulations, and the infrastructure can be developed at a lower cost. But the article says that if this is happening, there will be an impact of this. Now, the question mark is what is the impact? Now, when we talk about the impact, there are 5 points which are pointed. First, this is an non inclusive group where rural population is being exploited further. These men and women don't know the cost of labor in the Delhi sector or in the urban sector, and therefore the urbanization of rural poverty is happening. The company is becoming richer. However, there is no real inclusive development. No inclusive development. These people are just working at throwaway prices, and the day they will actually become conscious of this, they will be removed. The company will itself will relocate itself. At the same point of time, labor conditions, it is purely informal labor, on the contractual labor. Construction workers also contractual. Women are doing home based work at industrial level. Therefore, it leads to no job security and only leads to informalization. Precarious livelihood leads to further creation of slums and very bad standard of living. If that is not enough, We are seeing that inequalities and new hierarchies are emerging where the rural poor are going downwards whilst the people who had little bit of money are able to invest and go forward. At the same point of time, it is the intermediaries who are gaining, brokers, contractors, microfinancers, and this is in turn leading to concentration of land and labor in certain sectors. And at the end of the day, there is no systematic policy which is followed. No systematic policy. So when we talk about the impact, it is only further inequality, further poverty, further you can say slums, and further rise of intermediate. So this urbanization is useless. This urbanization is only leading to further people going closer to the BPL line. And basically, it leads to more informalization. More informalization. Now, if you understand all of this, I would like to discuss the way forward. Can we discuss the way forward? Yes or no? Yes? Okay. So, way forward. First is recognition. Recognition that these are the future of this. And if they are the future, these centers are the future of the nation, we have to acknowledge that they should be developed in the right way. Second, we have to reimagine planning so that the metropolitan model of having a hub and then development around it makes no sense. These men and women should have right transportation, right housing, and there should be a policy for it. Further, local governance, specifically municipalities and even the panchayats, cooperatives, they should have a say in how the state, how does that sector go forward. And last but not the least is that the digital infrastructure and also the economies which are developing in this sector, they should be inclusive. They should also not exploit labor. Accountability needs to be there and data needs to be collected. We can't be sitting in Delhi and thinking that urbanization has reached its peak and therefore no urbanization is happening. We are having new hubs developing and therefore there has to be some acknowledgement for that. And that is where a question like this, exactly quoting the, you can say, article, again, if I put a comment in front of it, you would then be caught off guard in the examination. They can remove the data, but still the question remains very difficult to answer. So please have to understand this point that we are going through a new type of urbanization, which is urbanization of the rural sector, urbanization of smaller towns, but based on very exploitative notions of capitalism, which in turn leads to this point where we have to, in a way, balance everything. A policy intervention is needed, can't allow cheap labor to be exploited to a point where we basically create more and more slums and urban rural towns which are not properly urbanized also and they're within that space. See, Manisha, the problem is labor codes and all of this mostly applies to formal sector. If you look at the labor codes also, mostly applies to formal sector. There may be certain provisions for informal labor, but if I'm running a 10-man factory in my household, I have a 3-story house. ऊपर के 2 रूम में मैं इंडस्ट्री चला रहा हूँ. I have, for example, very simple, straightforward industry, a small manufacturing sector where I'm producing, for example, a simple, straightforward cloth. I get the cloth from power loom and I make some textile and sell it. Which labor ministry or which labor ministry, you can say official portal will come and check if I'm doing that or not? If there's a connivance of local governance with these men and women, then there's no way you can protect these people. This is what is happening. Large, big pup. If, for example, if Samsung takes a very big, develops a very big factory as it is, it will come under scrutinization. But if it is pure informal labor, 5 to 6 people together are, for example, just producing a very locally made chips, packaging it in what is called as plastic bags. Must have seen multiple forms of, you can say, Instagram reels or YouTube shorts on unhygienic conditions in which things are being made. Small bread plant I have. I'm producing bread in my home itself. Nobody really knows it. Whoever knows it, I pay him money. It is very easy to say that first we have to create the policy framework which takes these things into account. We have to, the policy framework, as the article points out, is more metrocentric. We have to now change our approach. So we have to create a framework which can take all of this into account. Now, the last three articles are straightforward, easy out of the box. I will take your 5 to 6 minutes more. The first is Trump in the larger saga of first taking Venezuela, now asking for Greenland and all, whatever it is. He's the Mohammed bin Tughlaq of this age. Uh, Trump, as of right now, as of right now, has argued that if anybody trades with Iran, I will put additional 25% tariff on that country. Any business with Iran, extra 25% tariff. Now, India, as of right now, is a very important trading partner, but we don't know the quantum of trade which we do with Iran. It is believed that rice, tea, fresh fruits, and essential oils, and specifically basmati, is going to impact the most. So, what this article gives us is a very important table. I've just systematized all of it in a table. What is the share, Iran's share in India's total export? Only stands at 0.26%. So it is believed that most probably minimal impact will come. This is what the ministry is arguing. So only $764 million we are doing. So it is 0.26%. Trend in export share has been that it has declined from 1.1% to 0.26. The major export to Iran as of right now is basmati, and 61% of Iran's, meaning our basmati import to Iran, 61%, meaning out of 100% of all basmati which we export, 61% is going to Iran. Over and above that, this is a very important point. Iran's share in India's total imports is only 2.7. And the affected areas, tea 5.6, essential oils 5.7, and fresh foods 5.3. This is interesting. Iran's share in India's total imports, very, very low as of November of, in FY17, it was 2.7%. Now it has reached to 0.4%. Meaning both in export and import trend, we have already reduced it significantly. So therefore, there is no chance per se that this is going to really impact India, but it's more psychological here than economic. Now, I just wanted to play with this data, and I want you to answer this question. If you can process this data, use it logically, answer this question. Based on the data regarding India's trade with Iran, consider the following statement. Trend-based questions come in the examination. Basmati rice is India's major export to Iran, accounting for 61% of export to the country and approximately 3.1% of total global basmati rice exports. Iran's share in India's total import has seen a significant increase from 7% to 20% in 2025. What is the answer to this question? Very, very good. Perfect. Very good. Yes, the answer here is A only. Here the problem is this, again, extreme statement. Significant increase. Everything has decreased, and this statement is totally correct. Remember this statement, please, will help you in the examination. It has significantly decreased from something which was around 2.7% to 0.04%. So, again, this question is to demonstrate to you how a question can be made out of this area. This is called a trend based question, comes in IR and economics both. So I hope that this helps you in contextualizing the discussion which we are having. Now, last two topics, very simple. First, two cases of Nipah have been reported. First in West Bengal, both cases in West Bengal. The first patient is in coma. The second one is extremely serious, and therefore, we should know what is Nipah. We have progressively succumbed to the pressure. It only signals to the hard diplomacy which America is playing. That is the problem here. That is the problem here. We can't really. This only is indicative of the hegemonic. Not I'll say not hegemonic power, but the power which US holds across the world. We have significantly reduced a lot of things because we also have to keep our interest into consideration. And as of right now, he's on a witch hunt. Trump is on a witch hunt for India and China specifically. The BRICS thing did not go well in his mind, and when he makes somebody a target, he makes a point out of it. That is what he's trying to do. So we are trying to remain under the radar as much as possible, in a global scenario where everything is integrated, and unfortunately most of our software and most of our, you can say, infrastructure, and even most of our service exports are to America or from America. And with such brain drain there, can't really uh, play so hard with America that it backfires us. So it is purely playing the flow right now. We are going with the wind. We're trying to play with that concept right now. So maybe it is India has been arguing that we are not the only one who are importing Russian oil. Gas is going to Europe, but still, it's in Trump's mind. India is the problem right now. We expecting no, no. Everything will be namesake. Eyewash, big things will be said, but nothing really will be done on the ground. Uh, he was in a position for. We were talking about de-dollarization quite a lot. Now, the way he's playing the cards and the way he's pegging the dollar with the oil and with Venezuela into context, now he can do anything. That's the whole point. You don't need to. Eco optional. Okay, as I was saying, Nipah, as you said, is a zootonic disease. Goes from fruit bats. You can either consume a fruit which has been bitten by the bat or eaten by the bat, or some form of pig or bacon or some form of meat which is contaminated by the fruit bat, which is in turn Nipah virus in that regard. The symptoms look very close to initially look very close to a standard common cold. However, it can lead to death and coma, and unfortunately, there is no specific treatment. No specific treatment. Yes, the fall of the petrodol. There is no specific treatment for Nipah as of right now, and no vaccine also. So this first case was in Kerala. Thereafter, now in turn, it is spreading across India, and West Bengal has seen these first two cases. They're still confirming the second case, but for you, the static portion is that Nipah is back. Nipah is always in the news, but Nipah is back for anybody who does not know what Nipah is. Last but not the least, maybe your delivery is not going to happen. The food which you have ordered, not food, but the groceries which you have ordered will not come in 10 minutes. The messaging will change. 10,000 plus products in 10 minutes to 30,000 products at your doorstep. The labor ministry, after a proper strike from the delivery drivers who are contractual labor, considered to be contractual intermediaries, they went on a strike. Lot of gig workers issue has been in the news. So now the idea was that the companies were arguing that we are able to give the products in 10 minutes because we have so many dark stores. But there was a concept that these men are under pressure to reach within 10 minutes. So all of this had led to the labor ministry to say that you don't commit to 10 minutes, change the messaging per se. Let's see if there is a certain form of legislation which comes through. But as of right now, the messaging will change, as you will see. As you will see that there will be now no 10 minutes mentioned per se, but you may get it within 10 minutes if the dark store is very close. So on this note, I think we've covered very comprehensive everything. Happy Makar Sankranti, Pongal to all of you. I will see you tomorrow, same time. Please take care and Remember that though the notification has been delayed, not the examination date. All the best. Take care. See you tomorrow.